Hi everyone, this will be your video for long division of polynomials. You'll notice that the methods are similar to long division of numbers, but here we are with polynomials. So what is the main idea? So we kind of have this mantra that we can remember, and it's going to be divide, multiply, and subtract. So we need to think about what that means. So first we're going to divide the first terms of the divisor and the dividend. The divisor is what's being divided into another polynomial, in case you need help with that. The second step is that we're going to multiply the result to the divisor. So we would write the result on the top of our dividing bar. We would multiply it against the divisor and then subtract the result and repeat. So we have divide, multiply, subtract, repeat. Occasionally we do have a remainder. So when we do, what you have to do with that is you take your remainder, you put it over your divisor, and you add it to your quotient. So you can see I have my two polynomials that were being divided. I would get whatever my result was, and then if I had a remainder, I would put my remainder over my divisor. Okay, so here's our first example, and it's done out for us. In this example, you can see that right up here, just to kind of give you a little extra information here that you might have forgotten. So this is the dividend, and that's what's going to go on the inside. And then we have our divisor, and that's going to go in the front. Okay, so we have the inside and then we have the front. So you can see here that we have our dividend on the inside. We have our x squared plus 5x plus 3. And we have our divisor on the outside in the front. So our first step, remember, is to divide. So we divide our first term. So you have x squared and x. When I divide that, I get x. And I put that on top, and I just make sure it's in my x column. So when I divide that, I get x. And I'm going to multiply that x. Now keep in mind, none of this is here yet. I'm going to multiply that x times the x and the 6. So I end up with x squared plus 6x. So we've divided, now we've multiplied, now we subtract. Remember, we're subtracting this whole term here. So you want to make sure you're subtracting both terms. So we subtract, and now we have a negative x. So now we repeat. So we're going to divide. So I do negative x divided by x, my first terms, and I get a negative 1. So I put negative 1, multiply, subtract. Now you would repeat if you could. We can't. So this is a remainder, okay? When you have a variable here, it can't go into just a constant number. So you know that that's a remainder. So when we write our total solution, it's going to be x minus 1 plus our remainder over our divisor. So 9 over x plus 6. Okay, so let's do one out together. So the first thing that we can do here is we can make sure that we're getting it set up correctly. If you do this incorrectly, you're going to be setting yourself up for failure there. So I'm going to make sure that most of the time it's your larger polynomials on the inside. So we have r squared plus 14r plus 38. And I'm going to have r plus 8 on the outside. So we need to do some side work. I always like to have a little area to do side work on my paper. That just lets me know that I don't need to always do mental math. I have this little area designated for side work. So we do need it right now. So we have r squared divided by r. These are our first terms. When I do that, I get r. So going back to my problem, I'm going to put r on top of my r column, just like how you would with numbers if you had 10s over a 10 column. So r's over the r column. So now we're going to multiply. So when I'm multiplying, I'm taking this number that I just put on top, and I'm just going to multiply it. So all of my terms in the front. Okay, so we have r squared plus 8r. Now we need to subtract. The biggest mistakes come with not subtracting both terms. So put some parentheses to help you out. And we subtract. So you always want to make sure that these first terms cancel. That's that whole goal of doing their own little dividing in the side work. So they must cancel. And then we have 14r minus 8r, so we're going to have 6r. And then you can just bring down your next term, so plus 38. Okay, so now we need to start over again. So we need to do some side work here, right? Because we have our new first term is 6r, and our other first term is r. So we're going to do 6r divided by r, and we get 6. So we're going to put a 6 now on top of our constant column. So now we have 6. So we've divided. Now we're going to multiply. Remember, divide, multiply, subtract. So divide. Now we're going to take this 6. Now remember, we only inputted this 6. We're going to work with this 6. We're going to multiply it by the r and 6 to the 8. So that gives me 6r plus 48. So we've divided, we've multiplied, now we subtract. So we're going to subtract. We're going to make sure that we subtract both terms. Now again, 6r minus 6r cancels. That's what we want. And then we have 38 minus 48, so we end up with a negative 10. So just like with the last problem, there's no way, and you can even see it if you do some side work here, so there's no way that you could divide negative 10 by r. Okay, so this can't happen. So this can't happen, and what that tells us is that that negative 10 is really our remainder here. So when we're writing out our final solution, so you always want to kind of like have some sort of idea here of where you're going to write your solution, because it can get a little confusing if you just leave your work the way it looks. So we have our final solution, and it's going to be whatever we got on the top. So that's called our quotient. So we have r plus 6. This is our quotient. And then we have our remainder. So we're going to put on, you can either do a plus sign or a minus sign depending on the sign of your remainder. Our remainder is negative, so we're going to do minus 10 over our divisor, so r plus 8. And that would be our whole final solution. Alright, and maybe one last final example to round this out nicely. So we have, again, we're going to have 2x squared minus 17x minus 38. And that's going to be on the inside. And then we have 2x plus 3 in the front. So we're going to remember our mantra here. We have divide, multiply, subtract. Divide, multiply, subtract. So we're going to divide first by doing some side work. So get a little area set up for yourself, or just do it on the side, doesn't matter. So we need some side work. We're going to divide 2x squared by 2x. When I do that, I end up with just x. And that will be the first thing I put on the top of my dividing sign. So now we've divided, we've written it, we want to multiply. So I'm going to do x times 2x, and I get 2x squared. And I do x times 3, and I get plus 3x. So now we want to subtract. So I'm going to subtract this whole line here. You want to make sure you're using parentheses. Again, your first term should cancel. And then we end up with a negative 20x. We do want to bring down this minus 38. And then we're going to repeat. So we're going to divide again. So we have negative 20x divided by 2x. That's going to give us a negative 10. So in our problem here, we're going to put a minus 10 on top. And then we're going to multiply. So we have minus 10 times 2x, so that's minus 20x. And then minus 10 times 3, so it's going to be minus 30. So we've divided, we've multiplied, now we subtract this whole line. Your first terms cancel. In your second terms, we have negative 38. This ends up being a plus 30, so it's just a negative 8. So just like with the last few, again, we have a remainder. You're going to see this is pretty common, but we would do 8 divided by 2x, and that just doesn't really work. Okay, so that can't happen. Okay, and because that can't happen, that means that minus 8 is our remainder. So we have our quotient, and then we have our remainder. So when we're writing our solution out, our solution is going to be our quotient, which is x minus 10. Zoom out a little bit there. So we're going to have x minus 10. And then we have our remainder, whatever sign your remainder is. So ours is negative, so we'll do minus 8 over our divisor, which was 2x plus 3.